Today's episode is brought to you by Surfshark. If it feels like the internet is getting more dangerous by the second, and feel that hackers have more ways to target you, trackers are following your every move, and malware is hiding all over the web, luckily there is a solution. You can get a VPN. Essentially, it will hide your location and make you more difficult to identify and target. But privacy and security are not all that Surfshark has to offer. If you have a VPN, you will forget all about those pesky geo restrictions. Everything from news sources to social media apps that have become unavailable to you because of your location. All you need to do is change your virtual location and access all the entertainment you want safely and securely. And the best part is you can try out Surfshark completely risk-free because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So get Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deals/TTD. And don't forget, enter promo code TTD for 83% off and 3 months free. But now, on with today's show. And I hope you are all well out there in internet and podcast land, and I trust you're all being kind to each other. But we've recently spoken with Steve Tack from Dynatrace on here about multi-cloud and serverless monitoring. And I also learned that they got a new CEO in Rick McConnell. So I wanted to learn more about his career in tech, his origin story, what attracted him to Dynatrace, his vision for the future, and much more. So I invited him on the podcast today, and he said yes. So without further ado, and without revealing any spoilers, buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Rick and learn more about the motivations, passions, and insights of the new Dynatrace CEO. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Rick. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thanks. Thanks so much, Neil. My name's Rick McConnell. I am Dynatrace's CEO. I am a whopping 8 weeks into the job at Dynatrace and thrilled to be here with you today.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to diving in and finding more information about you. But before we talk about Dynatrace and all the great things going on, I'd love to know more about how you got where you are today. So can you remember where your passion for technology came from and ultimately what lit the spark and put you on the path that you're on right now? Or as they say in those Marvel movies, what's your origin story?
Well, I remember just diving into programming when I was early in high school, and I just loved solving problems through code. And this is obviously quite a number of decades ago, so I'm dating myself at this point. But it really did fuel my initial interest in technology. When I went away to college, I was very focused on math sciences. I became a financial engineer for an investment bank thereafter, programming IBM mainframes. But what I really wanted to do, or at least what I discovered through that period, was I really wanted to run a company. That was the excitement and passion and energy. And so I set about going back to business school and then using my background in technology and that passion as a mechanism for becoming part of various leadership teams through the course of my career that then enabled the utilization of technology to achieve multiple career objectives for me, both being involved in technology and in being a leader in various different companies as I went through my career.
And what I love about your career there and your story is you're techie at heart and you come from that programming background. And I'm curious, now you're a leader and you're CEO of Dynatrace. Do you still try to keep your hand in with the programming and developing side? Do you still try to stay technical too?
Well, yes to the latter, no to the former. I haven't programmed for some time, but the good news is with a very technical background, and obviously almost every day I'm engaged in some form of technical discussion about product evolution, innovation, architecture, technical challenges or ways to overcome it, directional heading vis-a-vis roadmaps and product evolution, vision of where the market is headed and how we may be able to take advantage of that. All of these elements, I think, are are very consistent with the utilization of technology as a backdrop to be successful in my role. So no programming these days, but very much leveraging the skill set of the past. Really, I view it on a daily basis.
Oh, I love that. And what about your career before you took the role of CEO as Dynatrace? Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how you got here?
Sure. It is a bit circuitous in my case, because while I started as a programmer, then coming out of business school, I actually took two successive roles as CFO of two technology companies, both of which we took public. And then the second one we sold to Cisco. By that point, I had become CEO of a company by the name of Latitude Communications. So I moved from CFO to CEO for a few years, then sold it to Cisco. I figured I'd be at Cisco for a very short while. And instead, I was there for 7 or 8 years running product organizations and global sales of a group, WebEx, actually, while I was at Cisco. Then ultimately took a product role after my Cisco time at Akamai, where I became president of products and then various divisions, and then grew the security group at Akamai from basically nothing to $1.3 billion over the course of the decade that I was at Akamai, and all of this in advance of then now just a couple of months ago in December, taking on the CEO role of Dynatrace. So I've run various different groups along the way, from sort of programmer to CFO to CEO to product groups, global sales roles, and then back to my present role here at Dynatrace.
And throughout your career, you really have worn so many different hats. But I think that's a great thing, and it prepares you for what you're doing now. And as you said before, you accumulate all this knowledge, and you can refer to it on an almost daily basis. But what were the big reasons for you joining Dynatrace as CEO? What attracted you to the company?
Well, several reasons, actually, and it's certainly interesting in taking a look at it. But I was really quite happy in my role at Akamai. I wasn't looking to leave. I was president of the company. We had a great team, great mission, incredible organization, really across the board. But I really did have this passion, sort of back to this fire of being CEO again, as I was 15 or more years ago. And Dynatrace came along, and I started to research it, and I discovered many elements. Now, the first was that it is operating in a market surrounding digital transformation that is absolutely immense and growing very rapidly. We think of this as a $50 billion plus market in observability alone, which is Dynatrace's really core product offering and focus. And so the result of that is that there is huge potential growth here. The second is that I talked to a number of customers, colleagues who are familiar with Dynatrace, and the technology is absolutely world-class, highly differentiated, and customers really like using it. They have come to view it as indispensable in their ecosystems. The financial performance was a third element. You look at Dynatrace as being about $1 billion in annual recurring revenue these days, growing at more than 30%, very strong profitability, and it therefore rendered an opportunity for further augmentation in investments as we go forward to continue to innovate. And then finally, I love the people. Company culture is very vibrant. Of the people I met, I haven't been disappointed since getting here. And so those were some of the core elements of what really attracted me and caused me to make the shift.
And it is becoming an increasingly crowded market out there. So as someone that's been in this role for 9 weeks now, what do you think makes the company stand out from all the competitors out there?
Well, at the global 15,000 level, which is really our target customer base, you need not data. You need more than dashboards, or as we call it, getting data to glass, of evaluating how your ecosystem is operating. What you need are answers, and you then need intelligent automation. And it is really the power of Dynatrace's AI ops, artificial intelligence capabilities and automation, along with our automated response capabilities, that enable you to operate enormously and increasingly complex businesses at incredible scale. And it is that truly differentiates Dynatrace from others in our space.
I love that. And as someone that's working right in the heart of the industry and got a tremendous experience, I'm curious, what kind of trends in the industry excite you, especially around the future and where we're heading?
Well, one trend is just the enormous, overwhelming trend, as we see at the beginning, toward digital transformation. We have all come to expect as consumers to get the sneakers that I ordered yesterday, today. Yeah. We have come to expect the ability to do all of our banking online. I can't even remember the last time I walked into a bank branch. In fact, the last time I looked, the bank branch that I used to use wasn't even there, and I didn't know that it had left. So it's interesting. We all expect to be entertained online over cellular connections through gaming or movies or long form or short form content for video. This trend is going to continue. The technology requirements of companies to have digitized their businesses is at an incredibly accelerating rate. And this is an amazing evolution. The adjunct to that, though, is that it makes these environments incredibly complex to manage. And that's where Dynatrace comes in enabling the management of these incredibly complex hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, complex ecosystem type approaches viable without a lot of manual intervention or manual oversight, where you're getting alerts and then trying to play whack-a-mole on triaging these alerts over time. So the sort of more proactive and automated response approach is really invaluable, I think, in terms of the capabilities and services that Dynatrace provides.
And you said at the very beginning of our conversation that you regularly use the skills that you've accumulated throughout your career on an almost daily basis. So I'm curious, if we reflect on your career, what would you say is the one lesson that your career has taught you that you think anyone should learn or everyone should learn at some point in their life that would help prepare them for their future?
One element of what I have always gravitated to, and obviously there are many ways, I suppose, Neil, to answer the question, but I always gravitate to people. Yeah. And a human approach to everything you do in leadership. It's sort of often said that people don't work for companies, they work for people, and they work with people. And that engagement of building enormous respect for other individuals, whether it is hierarchically up or down or sideways, it doesn't really matter. That sort of collaborative approach, empowered approach to business and people, focusing on the individual, allowing for career evolution, training, and personal development. Humility is a key element of that. I really, for example, I just completed over the last 8 weeks, I don't know, countless meetings with people throughout that company, and they continue at all levels. This isn't about me interfacing with my staff and my staff interfacing with their staff. It is really about me understanding people throughout the course of the organization or throughout the organization and understanding their perspectives, because their perspectives matter at all levels of the company and they can lead to success of the company. And that sort of personal engagement, I think, is something that I really put great value in and try to take advantage of in terms of approach, because there's just so much to be learned there.
And it's so refreshing to hear that, especially from the CEO of a tech company. And I was chatting with Steve Tack from Dynatrace the other day, and he was sharing the big announcements from Dynatrace Perform and going multi-cloud with serverless monitoring. So much cool stuff coming out of the event. But looking further into the future, what's your vision for the future of Dynatrace?
Well, we sort of parse it in the following way, Neil. I sort of think about it first as, what is our mission? What are we doing? And what we're doing is we're creating answers and intelligent automation out of data. That is really our mission. That is what we do. And all consistent with my comments heretofore, because it's really not about the data. The data is a given. What you want to do is you want to construct answers. But why do we do that? the reason we do that is really what we think of as our purpose. And that purpose is on delivering billions of flawless and secure interactions, digital interactions each day. And so that's sort of why we exist. And that, in my view, leads us to the vision of what we're really aspiring to assist in delivering over time, which is a world, in some sense, where software works perfectly. And if we achieve the multiple levels that I just walked through, then that's sort of nirvana. We will have met our goals if we can deliver in that way to achieve a world or assist in enabling a world in which software always works as expected. And therefore, whether it's machine to machine or machine to individual, that interactions work perfectly.
Oh, I wish you the best of luck for the future. So many cool things coming out of Perform, like we were talking about there. But it's now time to have a little bit of fun with you, because we began the podcast talking about your origin story. So as we come full circle, I'm going to ask if there was a song or piece of music, movie or book, or anything that has inspired and helped you in your career that you could possibly pass on to the listeners and maybe inspire them too. But what would your choice be, and is there a story behind it?
Oh, geez. Well, maybe I would think of a song. I grew up playing lots of tennis, national tennis tournaments, and so on. And so I was always very deeply competitive individual, and it's always sort of guided me through life, because I really enjoy competing. It's fun. I compete with respect. I compete with integrity and with ethics, but I love to compete to win. And so the first thing that comes to mind in answering the question is "Eye of the Tiger" as a song. It was sort of this notion back when I was in high school and playing tennis way back when, that it sort of inspired me to always want to improve, and continuous improvement, getting better. And these days I don't play as much tennis anymore, but I still do lots of cycling and running. And if I go into running events, I'll go into a half marathon or go into a 10K race. And it isn't about necessarily beating the person next to me. Of course, I can watch all the people who finish faster than I do. But it is really about self-improvement and continual evolution. Is there a time that I delivered last time that I can beat this time, based on training and engagement? And the same thing applies for me in business, that it's an opportunity to compete, to deliver real value for customers and real value for our other constituents and constituencies as well, whether they be shareholders or partners, certainly employees, customers, and so on. It is that value delivery combined with that sort of competitive spirit that I think is really fascinating, and I love it.
Oh, great choice. I'll have that to our Spotify playlist, the Tech Talks Daily Spotify playlist. I'll have pride of place. But before I let you go, for anyone listening wanting to find out more information about anything Dynatrace related, and hopefully even check out some of the keynotes from Dynatrace Perform, can you just point the listeners in the right direction of finding all that information?
Just go to dynatrace.com and you can look for Perform on our website, and that's how you're going to most easily get it. I think in terms of seeing it, you can always reach me on LinkedIn as well, or through Twitter as Rick McConnell, and I would love to hear from some of your listeners as we go.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you're incredibly busy and probably been on back-to-back calls. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing your story, especially as a tech company. What was so refreshing to hear was how important people are, and that's the heart of the company. A lot of people say it, but it generally come across how important it is to you. And more than anything, I think your background from being the engineer and being the programmer to where you are now, it's fantastic. So thank you so much for taking that time to share your story with me today.
Thanks so much for the time, Neil. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
People often ask me on here why I record the podcast every day, what I enjoy most, what I learn from it. Him talk there about the importance of people as well as technology. And It has been a big week of many announcements from Dynatrace. It's been a big year for them with a new CEO, a big event, etc. But I'd love to hear more about what has resonated with you. Is there any big announcements from there that has excited you? Or maybe you've got something to share of your own insights and your own company. And there's always and my door is always open. If you've got any questions, pictures to come on the podcast and share your story with me or anything at all, please email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn @Neil C. Hughes. But don't just hit follow, send me a DM, tell me you listen to the podcast. And again, if you'd like to work with me, my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But I've taken up far too much of your time once again. Apologies. But there'll be another guest ready and waiting in your podcast feed as soon as you open your eyes tomorrow. So I hope you'll join me again. But thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.